On a warm Florida day, the world's attention turned to Mar-a-Lago, the opulent estate that had become a symbol of both power and controversy. The air was thick with anticipation, as the fate of nations seemed to hang in the balance. Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu met at Mar-a-Lago, their alliance under unprecedented strain. Once celebrated for their close partnership, the two leaders now faced a relationship tested by shifting politics and mounting crises. Trump, now both the 45th and 47th U.S. president, and Netanyahu, Israel's embattled prime minister, faced a critical test: the fragile Gaza ceasefire, Iran's ambitions, and Netanyahu's legal troubles. The stakes were higher than ever, with every decision scrutinized by allies and adversaries alike. Their partnership, once seamless, now showed cracks beneath the surface of public unity. Behind closed doors, disagreements simmered over strategy, trust, and the future of their country's alliance. The world watched as the leaders negotiated not just policy, but their own political survival. Every handshake, every word, was analyzed for signs of discord or reconciliation. The U.S. brokered Gaza ceasefire, in place since October 2025, was on the brink, with both sides trading accusations of violations. The threat of renewed violence loomed, and the pressure to maintain peace was immense. Trump needed the peace plan to cement his legacy. His administration's credibility depended on progress in the Middle East. For him, success at Mar-a-Lago could define his second presidency. Netanyahu needed U.S. support to weather fierce criticism at home. With protests in the streets and political rivals circling, his grip on power was more tenuous than ever. As reporters gathered, the tension was unmistakable, each leader's fate increasingly tied to the others. The world's media captured every moment, amplifying the stakes for both men. The Mar-a-Lago summit was more than diplomacy. It was a high-stakes negotiation for the future of the Middle East and their own careers. In those gilded halls, history was being written. One conversation, one compromise at a time. Trump and Netanyahu's relationship has shaped global politics, influencing not just the U.S. and Israel, but also the broader Middle East. Their alliance has been a defining feature of recent years, marked by both grand gestures and subtle maneuvering behind the scenes. Built on shared ideology and transactional diplomacy, their partnership was forged in mutual ambition and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Trump's first term saw historic moves, most notably relocating the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, a decision that sent shockwaves through the region and delighted Netanyahu's base. The recognition of the Golan Heights as Israeli territory further cemented their bond, signaling a new era of American support for Israeli claims. And then came the Abraham Accords, groundbreaking agreements that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, aligning perfectly with Netanyahu's long-term goals and giving Trump a major diplomatic win. Their public camaraderie, often on display for the cameras, masked underlying tensions and personal rivalries that simmered beneath the surface. Especially after Netanyahu congratulated Biden in 2020, a move that Trump saw as a personal betrayal, straining the trust that had once seemed unbreakable. Now, with Trump's return to the political stage, the alliance faces new pressures: regional war, post-conflict realities, and diverging priorities that threaten to pull them apart. Trump seeks a lasting Gaza peace for his legacy, hoping to secure his place in history as a peacemaker, even as the situation on the ground grows more complex. Meanwhile, Netanyahu faces immediate security threats, domestic political turmoil, and mounting protests at home, forcing him to balance international alliances with local demands. Their partnership, once powerful and seemingly unshakable, is now a delicate negotiation. Past loyalty weighed against present needs and future ambitions. Allies in tension, they must navigate shifting interests, public scrutiny, and the unpredictable tides of global politics. The easy unity of the past has given way to pragmatic, sometimes strained cooperation, as both leaders try to secure their legacies in uncertain times. Their history is one of collaboration, marked by bold decisions and shared victories that have left a lasting mark on the region. But their present is a careful dance of survival, each step watched by the world, each move carrying consequences for the future of U.S.-Israel relations. The Mar-a-Lago talks centered on the precarious Gaza ceasefire, a diplomatic win for Trump, but fraught with obstacles. The phased deal called for hostilities to end, hostages returned, and Hamas disarmed, yet progress stalled. Trump publicly warned Hamas to disarm or face consequences, signaling unwavering U.S. support for Israel. Netanyahu insisted on the return of hostage remains before any Israeli withdrawal, making it a political and emotional flashpoint. Hamas countered with a proposal to store weapons under international supervision, not full disarmament. This deadlock threatens the entire peace process, with both sides accusing each other of violations. For Trump, success means legacy. For Netanyahu, it's a balancing act between U.S. demands and Israeli skepticism. The summit aimed to break the impasse, but deep mistrust remains. Disarmament of Hamas is the linchpin of the Gaza peace plan and its greatest obstacle. Israel and the U.S. demand total demilitarization before reconstruction, but Hamas sees disarmament as surrender. Hamas's offer to store weapons under international watch is rejected by Israel as a ploy. Netanyahu, under intense domestic pressure, refuses to move forward without the return of hostage remains. The impasse leaves Trump's dealmaker reputation on the line, with little leverage over Hamas. The leaders strategized at Mar-a-Lago, seeking ways to compel compliance or find alternatives. For Israel, anything less than full disarmament is unacceptable. For Hamas, it's existential. The deadlock is the Gordian knot of the peace process. Without a breakthrough, the plan risks collapse. At Mar-a-Lago, the sense of urgency was unmistakable. Iran's growing threat dominated every conversation, casting a long shadow over the high-stakes meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. The two leaders, both known for their uncompromising stances, found themselves united by a common concern: the possibility of Iran re-emerging as a nuclear power and destabilizing the region. Trump did not mince words. He issued a blunt warning to Tehran: any attempt by Iran to rebuild its missile or nuclear programs would be met with overwhelming force. The message was clear: the United States would not tolerate any backsliding or secret development, and the world was watching. In June 2025, U.S. airstrikes had targeted key Iranian nuclear sites, temporarily halting their progress. But Israeli intelligence soon uncovered evidence that Iran was already working to rebuild, moving quickly and covertly to restore its capabilities. The threat, it seemed, was far from over. Netanyahu, ever vigilant, pressed the U.S. for sustained and even increased pressure. For him, Iran's ambitions were not just a regional challenge, they represented an existential threat to Israel's very survival. He argued that only relentless vigilance and action could keep Iran in check. The brief but intense Israel-Iran war of 2025 had shown just how quickly tensions could spiral out of control. Missiles flew, cities braced for impact, and the world held its breath as the conflict threatened to engulf the entire region. Iranian officials, meanwhile, responded with fiery rhetoric and fresh threats, vowing retaliation and warning of dire consequences for any further interference. Their words underscored just how volatile and unpredictable the situation had become. Inside the summit, the atmosphere was tense. The gathering became a de facto council of war, with both leaders and their top military advisors poring over maps, discussing red lines, and weighing every possible military option. Netanyahu, determined and resolute, pushed for Trump's tough rhetoric to be matched by concrete, decisive action. He wanted promises to become reality, and for the U.S. to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel. The joint U.S.-Israel strategy was clear: contain Iran's ambitions at all costs. Yet, as both sides acknowledged, the risk of a wider, more devastating conflict remained dangerously high, with the potential to draw in other regional powers. In Florida, every decision was shaped by the looming presence of Tehran. The stakes had never been higher, and the world watched as history unfolded behind closed doors. Amid the summit's high-stakes diplomacy, Trump intervened in Netanyahu's legal troubles. Facing charges of bribery and fraud, Netanyahu requested a presidential pardon from Israel's President Herzog. Trump publicly endorsed the pardon, calling Netanyahu a hero and claiming a deal was imminent. Herzog's office quickly denied any decision, insisting on legal process and independence. Trump's move blurred lines between loyalty and protocol, risking backlash in Israel. For Netanyahu, Trump's support is a political lifeline. For Trump, it's a show of loyalty. The pardon debate now has international implications, complicating Israel's domestic politics. The Mar-a-Lago summit exposed the deep codependency between Trump and Netanyahu. Trump's Gaza peace plan hinges on Netanyahu's cooperation. Netanyahu relies on U.S. backing for survival. Each leader leverages the other's needs. Trump for legacy, Netanyahu for political cover and military aid. Netanyahu can slow-walk the peace process, knowing Trump can't afford failure. Trump, in turn, pressures Netanyahu on legal and policy issues. Their interests don't always align, but their fates are intertwined. The relationship is a high-stakes balancing act, partners and hostages to each other's fortunes. Their mutual dependence shapes every decision and negotiation. Despite unity on Gaza and Iran, the summit revealed sharp disagreements elsewhere. Trump acknowledged disputes over Israeli settler violence in the West Bank, a major obstacle to peace. On Syria, Trump hoped for improved relations, but Israel remains wary of its new neighbor and holds the Golan Heights. Lebanon remains volatile, with Israel striking Hezbollah despite a ceasefire. Trump favors containment, while some in Israel want decisive action. Trump referenced Gazan displacement but shifted to supporting reconstruction, signaling a policy adjustment. These issues highlight ongoing friction and the need for constant negotiation. Even close allies diverge on strategy, timing, and priorities. The alliance is strong but far from seamless. The Mar-a-Lago meeting was a turning point for U.S.-Israel relations and the Middle East. For the U.S., the Gaza peace plan and Iran containment are central. Failure risks wider conflict and diminished influence. For Israel, American support is vital for security and Netanyahu's political survival. The summit's outcomes will shape Israel's path toward fragile peace or renewed war. The Trump-Netanyahu partnership has redrawn the region, for better or worse. Their ability to manage disagreements while advancing shared goals is the true test. The stakes are immense. Millions of lives depend on their choices. The future of Middle East peace may hinge on the understanding forged in Florida.